colleagues, I now call my session chair, my co-session chair that's been sitting there quietly and humbly, Dr. Shah Moodley, to handle the Q&A.
Good afternoon, everyone. You'd note the strategy of ICPA to give the young lions the stage for the day. So the reason I'm in the last 5 minutes of the conference is because they've been controlling the agenda from the morning. It's been a strategy, and if it's worked for you, please give them a round of applause. They've done a superb job. So I think this session, all three speakers have highlighted the significant role that pharmacists can play in some of the problem issues that have been highlighted. The first being the coding care issue. We've almost renegaded in our tasks by moving this important product from a pharmacy-initiated therapy into self-care and over-the-counter. What we're asking for now is to reclaim that space and take control of it and put it back in the hands of the pharmacist so that you become then the responsible element in it rather than it being an over-the-counter product. So I think Daphne has highlighted the fact that the strategy going forward, out of all the consultations over literally, Daphne, probably about 2 years now of work that's being done, is that this is going to become compulsory for pharmacists to interact when there's a codeine product that is being dispensed in a pharmacy-initiated therapy. I think Michael, in terms of the self-care, again highlighted the important role that self-care is going to play going forward in transforming healthcare in this country and many other countries. And I think the self-care comes with its own complexities of getting patients and people utilizing self-care the requisite knowledge and information so they make the correct decisions. And who better than the pharmacist to actually manage that? And I think Sue has provided us sufficient data to suggest that the first port of call going forward, whether it's self-care or whether it is on managing minor ailments, is the pharmacist, and there's sufficient data for that. So with that summary of what has happened on stage, I'm going to open up the floor for Q&As. So there's PJ with the mic there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the panelists for a very insightful session. Every one of them was information-packed. I think a common thread that ran through all of these presentations was the whole question of the consumer engagement of the pharmacist with its patient. And bearing in mind that in our average day, the pharmacist spends a fair amount of time in this type of consultation, this type of furnishing of advice, etc. As yet, it is not reimbursed by funders. And I think it's high time that, funders, some pressure has been put on funders and on the necessary statutory bodies to actually recognize the fact that a pharmacist plays a big part of his day in furnishing advice, information, engaging with consumers, etc., etc. Thank you.
So are you asking for a comment in terms of a reimbursement model? Yes. Anyone wants to take that?
I think that's part of what this self-care resolution will do, right? When we have it drafted into policies that will set a resolution going forward, that governments have to then set up funding for it, how they educate, how they drive digitalization of it, what they do, driving healthcare, and I think driving access, right? So, I mean, 52% of the world's population actually doesn't have access to healthcare. So I think when we start having these resolutions put in place, it'll force funding that'll come through. And you see there's a huge amount of departments in WHO, plus the self-care coalitions that are there to support it. And I think a lot of the self-care companies want to make sure that they drive access, drive funding, drive awareness. So I think when it comes into resolution, which by 2025 I'm sure it will, there will be a lot of support and funding, and it'll level the playing field of really how self-care will be driven globally.
Thanks, Michael. Another question there? Pauline?
Hello, can I ask a question there?
Is there a question in the corner
Yes.
there? Okay.
This question is for Sue. When it comes to us independents, somebody has always been moving our cheese, whether it's the couriers or the corporates. Now we've got a bigger danger, which I think, is the online space. And I know you said that an X percentage still prefers to speak to the provider, like the pharmacist, but I'm concerned. So can you comment or project the trajectory of the online space and how it's going to grow? Because I think it's going to grow exponentially. But can you comment? And with that same question, can you at the same time give us a 5-point plan? Because we'll have to join the party.
So no, I mean, it's a really interesting point, and I completely understand the fear. I mean, I think one of the things to really point out is actually, if we have a look at online sales, in a lot of categories, they've declined. So you do still get pockets of real significant usage. So Germany's a good example, where there's a very high e-pharmacy market, for example. We don't see the same pattern in the UK. It's declined, and as I said, for the kind of reasons that we've seen before, in terms of counterfeit product, or probably, if I'm honest, in the UK, the risk of having your details stolen or not wanting to share that information. The projections that we've got at the moment is we're not going to shy away from the fact that there's always going to be this online market. We do believe that it's going to have a real variance by category, which I think I referenced. I think in terms of a 5-point plan, I think it's ensuring that you're prepared, your customers have a better relationship with you, and you guys do that already, but ensuring that they know that they're coming to you so they don't choose to take what they might feel is a more cost-effective option. I think a lot of people in some countries, believe it or not, don't even know they can buy some of the OTC products online. So I think there's an element, but I think it's about the value and the expertise that you offer. That's something that's not available online. And in fact, people are more fearful of it right now. So, I know some people think about the automation of ChatGPT, for example. I'm sure we're also very aware that 2 people could put in very similar comments and get 2 very different answers. So, you have the trust, and that's really one of your biggest your biggest bonuses, and the fact that people are coming into you to have their prescriptions dispensed, and there is that, that conversation alongside of that. So, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't want to say it's not going to be there, because I do believe it will always be apparent. I don't think people will be going there for certain categories because of their needs, the urgency and the importance, and obviously depending on what happens with our financial situation, they're not going to want to share their details. So that's my perspective for you. Okay.
Pauline, you got a mic? Okay.
Thank you, Daphne. This coding care issue is very close to my heart. I was glad to hear you say you will be enforcing data capture. But I think we all know that Papaya has come against us in a sense of patient information and it being in the public space. So this last week, we had a patient, I'm in a mall, a shopping mall, and with Dis-Chem and Clicks and just literally a couple of steps down the passage. So patients come in and they ask for Panamol, for example, which is obviously has cardiovascular risk. It's $8.99 a box, and they want 3 boxes. So legally, we advise them, we give them all the advice that they need about cardiovascular risk, etc. And you can see they go glazed over. They're not interested. Perhaps 2% of the patients are interested. And this last week, a patient came in that, as I say, has been on codeine, 40 a day, a box. She goes from shop to shop. The pharmacist obviously takes down the details. sometimes the details are incorrect. We ask them for their ID, and it's for my grandfather, it's for my grandmother. And this is the challenges we have as a pharmacist. And you know, with all due respect, in a stressful day, when we're dispensing, we're having now to manage a patient's decisions and choices. I realize it is our responsibility, but how are we going to uniform ID capture, for example? And I know, Sham, maybe I'm a bit behind the times in what has happened with Coding Care, but we've all got different computer systems. So how are we going to unilaterally capture it and identify that a patient has actually had 4 boxes in one day, for example, of Adcodol, just to give an example?
Thanks, Pauline. Daphne, you want to take that?
Thank you. Yeah, those are very important questions that are coming as we are engaging with our stakeholders. Those are concerns. However, what we need to move past that to decide that if you are a patient, you are coming to a pharmacist and you need to be taken care of, this is the information that the law requires, and you are being treated by a profession. There will be a common, like SAPRA will be the custodian of the database. Information that will be coming through should be only accessible for SAPRA. That information must, like that database, it must be a common database that everyone would be using, not that different people use different systems. But this is something that we are still engaging on, that we will be also consulting with the stakeholders, yourselves, just to make sure, because you are the users, just to make sure that we maximize getting the information that we need to make an informed decision about what do we do to curb this abuse. Whether if this person comes in and they need this, we ask for this information and they don't want to provide it, are we going to give them or do we not give them? So, but we want to work on a one system that all the pharmacists would be using, and SAPRA be the one that that owns it, if I may say the word own. So that information, as it's recorded, it must be. So we will speak about, like, it's not something that is finalized yet. It's something that we need to agree on in respecting the POPIA. How do we, the unique identify, that unique ID that we are going to use that will flag in another pharmacy if they have exceeded the quantities that agreed upon. So yeah, those are very critical questions which I think all of us, let's think about it, but that system will be owned by SAPRA, the information. There is no pharmacy that will be able to go back and check for more information, and yours is, it will flag the patient that is misusing that substance for your intervention as a health professional at that time. However, more and more information will be only accessible by SAPRA with that system. I don't know if any one of you wants to, any of the stakeholders who wants to add, but that's from SAPRA's point of view. But we are still going to reach out to you for more comments. So we are introducing it and we are still consulting. It's still at early stages, where we want to make sure that everyone, the end users together with the profession, we are going to make sure that we have got all the legal facts, and also to make sure that the system is watertight, it will serve what it needs to serve, and it will be usable in terms of cost effectiveness or any other concerns by all that are involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Daphne. And just to add to that, so the pilot that we've already done on the Coding Care initiative, all of those details were put in place to ensure that POPIA is abided by. So the information you would see in your pharmacy is really a red flag on the patient's ID, which they will be compelled to give you now in terms of the Medicines Act. It's there already, so it enables you to actually request it. And of course, you're going to have to make a decision in terms of refusal of treatment, and that's part of the issues around how we move forward with that. Combined with all of that, the industry that has come together is not looking at this in isolation. So it's not just putting a system in place and expecting that it's going to work. There is a lot of information that will be going out publicly. So there's investments being made by pharma companies together with all the associations that are there in terms of marketing the project, marketing it at pharmacy level, marketing it at a national level from a patient point of view. There's will be a lot of information that will come out of the regulators, Pharmacy Council, SAPRA, that will go out publicly. So the whole project will be supported nationally. So it's not, this is not being dealt in isolation, and we hope that we will be able to overcome some of the barriers as we go through the project. Joe, you had your hand up there.
Thank you. A question to Daphne, SAPRA. We appreciate the efforts that you have already taken in terms of putting systems together for Codain Care project. It's commendable, but the problem is compliance. About 3 weeks ago, I was privileged to address kids or students or scholars at a school that is mainly catering for mild to moderate mentally handicapped kids. The drug abuse, specifically codeine, at that school was out of this world. I was taken aback by the ease and the simplicity with which they acquire codeine products. They even tell you new techniques. And remember, they have mild to moderate mental handicap. What about normal students? Now, my question is, Codain Care is really wreaking havoc in communities, especially black communities. It's a sketch. Now, the dilemma that we find ourselves is some of us are compliant, but there are those pharmacies that are owned by non-pharmacists. They are not towing the line because they are profit-driven and they just want sales. Now, does SAPRA have a strategy of making sure that we are all compliant so that we all work as a team? Because I may be doing my part, but there's a pharmacy down the road that is owned by a non-pharmacist. All he wants is money, and he doesn't care about the welfare of the community. I know you are using a blanket approach to treat everyone equal, but there are those that we know that are intentionally breaking the law. What have you got in place to make sure that we save our communities?
Thank you for that. And you know, what you are mentioning, yes, it's a serious problem. And as a regulator, remember, as a regulator, the pharmacies that you are mentioning, they are not licensed by SAPRA. However, and also this organization, my wish was that independent ICPA involves pharmacists and non-pharmacists, because we're speaking about owners. So the intention was that we have a representation of both, because so that they know that this is the law. So with regards to such pharmacies, yes, it's a challenge. We are identifying those, inspectors are finding those, and we are actioning the provisions of the Medicines Act where it comes, because we've got offenses, what is an offense, and we also have penalties. But unfortunately, we don't have arresting powers. Once we identify the offenses, we work with law enforcement, and then we hand over the matter to them. They take over. But with this problem, the stakeholders that we are engaging is that was one of the system, the database is one of the tools that we are using to identify where, like remember, if you don't have scientific data, the information will not be compelling for you to make it a difference. So this is one of the areas to identify where is the gap. Where do they find those? We don't assume that this is the non-pharmacy owned pharmacies, but we have to collect information and have facts to say this is where the bottlenecks are. But as stakeholders, we are trying to see where are the bottlenecks, and wherever we identify them here and there, what can we do about it? Because the law says a layman can own a pharmacy. What do we do about it? Are you whistleblowing and reporting those to us? Like I mentioned, that we always raise our hand to say where there is a problem and you want us to come and share information, we will come and do that. Where we need to go and action the Section 29 and 30 of the Medicines Act, which is offenses and penalties, we will go and do that. But we need to be informed. But we know that, unfortunately, we can't work alone. We need together, collectively, help each other on the strategies of how can we make these ones to comply. Because, yes, we go to those pharmacies. When we get there, there is no authorized pharmacy personnel in that place, and you immediately, we will contact the relevant stakeholders, because SAPRA has jurisdiction over the product, but not necessarily the human resources. So the Pharmacy Act is the one that would be regulating that. So we need to, multiple stakeholders, we need to work together just to make sure that how do we uproot this problem? Because in one pharmacy, for example, the inspectors when they got there was no stock. They were even told that, no, you cannot buy one bottle. We sell in boxes. It is out of stock. How many boxes do you want? We can take your order, and then you can come and collect when we have stock. So those are the serious cases that, as a regulator, we are dealing with. However, we also do meet some dead ends. But with the colleagues like you, the purpose of this presentation as well is to come to you and say, we have this problem. How can we help each other to uproot it? Because it tarnishes. Because remember, those kids go and buy it at the pharmacy. Because it's about a pharmaceutical supply chain. They didn't, wherever level, because manufacturer, wholesale, community, those are a pharmacy. Now we are not addressing the dispensing doctors and the clinics that are authorized, but now if you speak about the medicines, you speak about a pharmaceutical supply chain. So it speaks better about a pharmacist at whatever level, because that product comes from a pharmacy. So now that is why we are saying, let's work together, let's collaborate, and also let's join hands in conducting common education and awareness campaigns in this regard. Thank you.
Thanks, Daphne. Last one there.
Hi, my name is Dalmaria. I'm from Alice Rouse Pharmacy. I feel we are missing the solution for the past 30 years. I've heard nothing about, okay, I'll give my solution, but first I want to quote a not so popular person, the Minister of Police, Becky Cele, recently said that the crime problem is not only the police's problem, it's various departments' problem. And I feel that trauma that children suffer from and the poor households and the malnutrition all contribute to problems like drug abuse and the high use of codeine and other substances. We will not solve this problem if we don't address once more, like we've done 30 years ago, the problem of birth control. we haven't heard a single word about birth control, and we have all this global problems of the pandemic. We have wars going on. I feel, and it's a gap in the market, even in Sue's topic, that there is a place where we can still earn a good income, and I feel it's in birth control. And we can even, I mean, households and communities are overpopulated, making it impossible to address all the children's trauma, all the children's nutritional needs. And we are struggling to find enough food in the food industry. We are concerned about being able to feed the world in the next 10, 20 years. There's floods, rains, fires, and those things, but we don't address birth control.
Thank you. Jackie's got a hand up.
Before Jackie's one, she can ask this as a second last one. Just a question on, we've spoken so much about codeine, but how are we regulating those shops that are not pharmacies that are selling the Schedule 2 item?
Can I ask my question, then we can do it all in one. My question was to Sue, with a global overview that you've got, Sue. Do you have any statistics on how independently owned community pharmacies are faring against the big corporate chains on a global view? I'd love to hear some info there.
Shall I take that question first?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's a really interesting phenomenon that we've seen is an increase in people returning back to independent pharmacy. They were supportive. I think it's a really key message. They were supportive of communities through COVID. They were there when others weren't. And I think that's highly recognizable in many, many countries. Now, I'm not going to debate the fact that obviously pharmacies in some countries act a little bit differently. I mean, France, obviously, it's very beauty-oriented, for example. But on the whole, independent pharmacies that dispense and have a good over-the-counter selection, there's definitely been an increase of. Because many consumers in many countries don't feel that they can get the same advice in large outlets. It's not private necessarily. They feel that they're just one of many. They're not known to the person that they're speaking to. And I think that's really the point that I was trying to get across, albeit I might have done it a little bit badly with not being able to breathe. But, you know, it's about that relationship, and it's about understanding the person that's walking through the door and engaging with them. And let's face it, when you walk into, I mean, I can talk about Boots in the UK, that might be a little bit better, but, you know, my local one, if I walk through the door, no one's going to say hello to me, no one's going to understand what I'm there for. I might walk aimlessly around, no one's going to stop and ask if I need any help. So I think what we've seen is people going back to the people that supported them from the beginning, when there wasn't large chains, and the independent community pharmacy was the hub of the community. And I personally believe that we're going to see that continuing.
Thank you. Daphne?
Thank you. So, with regards to the sales, I will just focus more on the controlled substances. So, was the question relating more to the controlled substances in relation to, okay, thank you. So, why collecting data is very, very important. So I'm answering in reverse. When you are collecting data, remember the whole chain that I've mentioned that has a reporting responsibility from manufacturer of API. What happens is that on an annual basis, we need to inform the INCB in terms of the pharmaceutical active ingredient or the substance that is listed as a narcotic, for example, codeine in this instance. We need to mention to the INCB that South Africa will consume so much kilograms or tons of codeine for the year 2024. And we have to account for manufacture of API, importation, and like throughout the supply chain, we have to account for all that and report on it. So meaning that, for example, Fine Chemicals has to tell us how much they have in reserves, how much they are going to manufacture, how much they are going to export, how much they are going to import, and then to which manufacturers are they going to sell the APIs, and then we go to the manufacturers of the finished products. How much are you going to? And then every quarter they must give us a report on that consumption. So the data is there from API manufacturing, the data is there from manufacturing of finished goods to the wholesale. The data is there from wholesale to community pharmacy, to hospitals, doctors, and all that. Now, we need to make sure that which they say it left the wholesalers and it went to the community pharmacies, because now we are community pharmacies, we need to know who received each and every product and what was destroyed. So collecting that data with this database that we are speaking about, it will therefore tally, now we'll be able to tally all the information. What is missing from the wholesale to the community pharmacy? We will need to know what happened to it so that we can identify where the bottlenecks are, where the problematic areas are. Was it hijacked? Because with the hijacking as well, we need to be informed. We record that information. So now, if a particular pharmacy is not collecting that information, which is mandatory, then why did they order the stock? Where did that stock go? So that's why we are saying with information we would be able to work together. But ignorance to the law, again, you cannot hold substances that should be sold in a pharmacy if you are not a pharmacy and tell us that you didn't know. Where would you have bought Benylin with codeine? Because you can't, unless it's counterfeit. You have to find it from the pharmaceutical supply chain. So if you do identify those, you let us know. We've got inspectors who are always in the streets. They are not enough, but they are always, we will go immediately and seize that and also open criminal cases. Our inspectors are, the provision of the law enables us to do that. But unfortunately, you find that the pharmacies are enabling this. There is a level of a pharmacy that is enabling this.
Okay, I'm getting serious signals from the floor there to cut the session because there is an AGM taking place at 4 o'clock. So ICPA members are requested to stay behind. Starting at 4:30. Okay, so I'm told it's a quick break where you can take tea and then return here at 4:30 for a 1-hour AGM before we prepare for the evening. So all that's left for Simone and I is to say thank you to our amazing 3 speakers, Daphne, Michael, and Sue. I think it's been very informative. Thank you for your participation from the floor. The questions were really insightful. And to the team that put everything together for today, thank you very much for your hard work. We'll see you all later this evening at the dinner, the gala dinner, and the rest of you that are coming back for the AGM, we'll see you at 4:30. Enjoy your tea break. Thank you.